Good evening, everybody. Thank you for watching. This is Lessons for Life podcast. I'm Troy Hopkins, and my guest tonight is Ryan Stasiuk. Ryan, thank you very much for coming.
No problem, Troy.
Pleasure to have you here. It's awesome. So to start with, who is Ryan Stasiuk?
Well, I think I'm an onion. That's the short answer.
Lots of layers.
Lots of layers. We can go down the rabbit hole one way or the other. We can either take the blue pill or the red pill and see where Ryan's mental matrix in life leads us.
There you go.
I think on the surface of the onion, I'm a husband first and a father and son and brother. I got two younger brothers.
Nice.
Married with two kids. They're great, boy and a girl, 9 and 5. The girl's 9, and she makes a great big sister, and I'm pretty proud of that. And the boy is just as intense as I was as a child, I think. So
Payback.
Proud of that. Yeah, payback.
Yeah.
We had a second one thinking that, wow, the first one worked out so great.
Yeah. Thanks.
Now the second one is, I wouldn't say challenging. He's just a lot more energy, and you know, it's awesome. Just kind of completes our family, and we're having a great time out in Penticton, British Columbia.
Nice.
And, right now I'm just up at work.
Nice. Right on. What is your why?
Ooh, diving right into the big ones, eh? I think the why is a lot tougher answer. I don't think I know yet. I think I'm halfway through life, and I feel like, well, let's hope I'm less than halfway through life, but I'm 40 years old. I don't think I've learned all of life's lessons yet. So when you asked me to be on your Life's Lessons podcast, I was like, maybe ask me when I'm just about kicking the can down the road, you know, and heading off to wherever you go. But I think that once I figure out what my why is, I kind of feel like life's been a big preparation up until this point, that I'll have the ability to be great at something. I think I've done a lot of things and almost like sharpened and folded over the samurai sword many times, and I'm looking for a place to use it. So that's my why is maybe part of who I am is the journey to get there. And I think that journey to the why is probably the most interesting part. I'm a big adventure guy, and never turned down a good adventure or a bad one.
Yeah,
I'm usually leading the way on those adventures. And I think my greatest adventure, and it's funny because I've asked myself that, what is my why question a lot. I've read a lot of books and a lot of motivational things and leadership books, part of my role at work and outside of work. And I've just I got two little brothers, so I've always kind of been chucked into that leadership role. And I think that journey to my own why, you know, is still on route. So
nice. So what would you say has been the most challenging part of your journey so far?
Well, a lot of the books and the get better books, the self-help type books, the stacks of them that I've read, I think it's led me that direction because I'm trying to figure that out. And the toughest part is when you read one of these books and they say, you know, like say a Simon Sinek, and it says, start with why. I'm just like, start with why. Great. Might as well close the book and go figure that out. So that's probably the toughest part is just kind of having that thrown in your face. And, you know, being 40 is a big milestone for a lot of guys, a lot of people in general. And it's kind of like, hey, I better figure this out. You know, if we're lucky, I've been halfway, and if we're really lucky, I've still got lots of time. So life's finite, and time is important. So
yeah, exactly. So you've got two younger brothers, you said. So what influence did growing up with siblings have on who you've become?
It's definitely made me not afraid to take on responsibility. at a young age, just taking on that responsibility of others and myself, and being the one that picks the safe path or the fun path. It's just always come pretty natural to me.
Nice. Right on. Do you feel that your brothers have looked up to you a lot, or have you, as time's gone on, have you looked up to them for different things, different guidance?
I think, at the younger ages, they definitely looked up to me quite a bit, and hopefully I've lived up to that. You never know until
Right.
you know.
Right.
But I think they're doing good in life, and they're happy, and that's what's important. And sometimes I look towards them now to say, like, I like to complicate things, and as I get older, it seems, and they're doing a good job of simplifying. And I think
Nice.
that's probably something I can learn from my younger brothers. And younger brothers are fun. I mean, that's a
Right.
good source of fun in the past, and we're a bit further apart now, so that fun's fewer and further between. But it's something that I've always cherished, and think that that's probably one of the things that I look up to them for. And my youngest brother, he's getting engaged and married, and he's got his whole life ahead of him, and he's 7 years younger than me, so that's interesting. And it's interesting because he's done some of the things that I want to try.
Okay.
He's tried being a stand-up comedian, which is something that's been on my bucket list. And
Nice.
being in a fairly corporate position, you wonder how acceptable that is these days, depending on what stand-up path you want to go down.
Which rabbit hole?
Yeah. Do you stay on the outside of the onion, or do you go right down with the red pill? I'm not sure. But
Yeah. Right on. That's awesome. Um, in your family, your mother or your father, who do you think has been the biggest influence on you?
well, I think just being a boy in a family of three boys, I think Dad was a big influence. Just he's the one who we looked up to. He's our hero. But as boys do, who do you go running to when you get hurt?
Yeah.
You go crying to Mom, and she makes everything all better. She's the one that tells you everything's going to be all right, and everything's going to work out. And that's kind of like it'll all work out is a famous saying of my mother's, because I was a pretty intense child. So
I always tell my friends and stuff, growing up, I got 6 kids, 5 of them are boys. My daughter might as well be a boy anyway. She plays football with the boys and everything, right? Grew
yeah,
up playing hockey. So I always tell people, you know, as a father, you teach them to throw, you teach them to catch, you teach them to ride their bike, play football and stuff. And as soon as they get on TV, the first thing they do is say, "Hi, Mom."
yeah, yeah.
Right? So yeah, I mean, mothers definitely are the nurturing ones, and even though your father's a big influence, mothers carry a very special place in your heart, I think.
Definitely, most definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's amazing with my daughter,
awesome.
and my dad's learning to handle the energy of my son. So it's good to see. And I think my daughter and my mother are almost, at sometimes they're like the same person. They're both very creative, and they spend
Oh
a lot
yeah,
of time with each other. And whenever they're together, they're not more than a couple feet apart for the entire time. So
nice.
pretty cool to see. And yeah, it's good to have that relationship with the grandparents. I
That's
mean,
awesome.
I hope it. I think my parents started a lot younger. Or they were from multiple children in their families, so they weren't. My dad was the second oldest, and my mom was like third youngest, I think,
Oh
out
yeah,
of like 4 and 5 was a 4 and 5 or 6 maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
a bunch.
so big families, and I think that they started pretty young with us. So like they had me, I think when they were 20, when my mom was 21 or 22. So they're gonna live to be a long time, and live till they're older, and have a lot more time to spend with my kids than I got to spend with my
Nice.
grandparents. My grandparents passed when I was fairly young. So my grandfathers actually. My grandmother made it pretty far, but grandfathers barely knew them. So
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't happen to my kids.
Yeah. That's kind of what we've got. My grandkids, my wife thrives with the time she gets with my granddaughter, and she lives close. And then the other grandkids that live further away, we make sure we get out there and visit. And she lives for those moments. So I can
Yeah,
see where your mom, cherish that time with your grandkids.
yeah. I have the only grandson on both sides of the family, and
Nice,
that'd be the third granddaughter. So
nice.
yeah,
Right
on
on.
my side, and the first granddaughter on my parents' side. So they're pretty engaged.
Nice. Of all the traits that your mother and father have, or the good traits that you've seen over the years, what would one trait be that you would like to pass on to your kids
From my parents.
from your parents?
Well, I think my family has a pretty good sense of humor, and I think that and their loving ways are basically the two things that I think will get us through the tough times and get us through life, and that's a lot of what life's about is love and humor. And I think that
Nice,
if they can pass that on to the grandkids and leave the seriousness for the world, I think
nice.
that's a good thing to pass on.
Yeah, you got to be able to smile and be happy through life for sure.
Mhm.
Which person outside of your family do you think has had the largest impact on your life?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think that different people at different stages. Um, so when I was in high school, I had a vice principal that got me my first job, and that in a lot of ways kind of straightened me out and put me on a good path.
Is
As
that
far as
why you got to know the vice principal? Because you spent a lot of
you
time.
got picked up on that, did you? Yeah, you bet. Spending too much time in his office, and he wanted that to end, and so did I. So he found a place for my energy,
Nice.
and it was a good place. It was. I was already into sports and that sort of thing, and still did sports and worked part time through high school at the grocery store, and that was a great job. And so that kind of got me out of I think I focused less on teachers being an influence and then more on some of the guys I worked with being more of an influence at that stage. So then that kind of took me into the working stage of my life, and then later on, I kind of looked towards friends in my 20s for advice and
Right.
life path. I was trying to figure out what to do for work and what to do with my life as far as a career goes, and ended up switching careers. And then in my 30s, had a great boss that acted as a really good mentor to me, and he's passed now, but he definitely got me through a lot of career moments and kind of helped me get to where I am today. So those are probably the three bigger influences: is vice principals, the guys at work, the friends I grew up with that were doing a little bit better than me at the time, and then my boss.
Nice. So at work, your boss, what kind of things did he do that you would say kind of molded who you are?
I think he let me chase visions and achieve, and gave me that enabling leadership spirit that I needed at the right time. Gave me ownership of things and let me fail and let me try, and you know treated me like an equal, bouncing off ideas and strategizing for the team. And a lot of it was done. I didn't find out till later, um, without other team members. I just assumed he was doing the same thing with everybody, and maybe to a degree he was, but I felt he did a good job of making you feel special, and your abilities were in his eyes way up here, and
Nice.
I think that was really important.
You mentioned that you played sports. Um, what do you think was your biggest lesson that you learned from being part of a team or in a team environment or that type of thing?
Yeah, I played a lot of sports in team environments when I was younger, and and not so much as I get older, more of the individual and family type sports. I grew up playing baseball, played from very T-ball till 18, and right up
You
to
don't play t-ball no more.
no, and played the baseball, not the softball. So the
Nice,
real sport, as far as I'm concerned.
nice.
And did a lot of volleyball and badminton and basketball in high school. Also played a bit of hockey when I was younger. Uh, then as I got older and kind of went off my own, I fell in love with skiing and snowboarding, and those
Nice.
are kind of my favorite sports right now. And then, later on in life, I got into the surfing and even played squash for 4 or 5 years until my knees told me I couldn't do it anymore. And then now I just I'm into surfing, fishing, um, snowboarding, and skiing is kind of my sports now. So
Nice.
I guess going back to your question, team sports. What did I learn? Teamwork's super important, and I think everybody has to give it their best effort. And if you see somebody that's not having a good day, you need to help bring your teammates up. You need to get everybody on the same mental page. And when you do that, um, whether it's putting in a good effort and showing being an example, or whether it's one of your top players coming to the game or the practice with the same attitude as the rest of the team, I think that's super important. There was a couple coaches back in the day that would not be afraid to sit the best players if their attitude wasn't there, and I think
Yeah.
that was super important, especially as to teenagers, as your attitude's all over the place. You probably blame it on hormones or homework or whatever the problem is at the time. It's a pretty big time in your life, and to help get everybody on the same page from an attitude perspective is probably the big thing.
Nice.
And I still do that today with my team.
Nice. I was going to say that relates to work all the way through, like your professional life. That
100%.
whole attitude comes in,
Yep.
right? Exactly. How important is
Attitude is everything.
it is attitude is everything, and if you've got a good attitude, you can go a long ways. When I coached hockey for almost 30 years, me and one of my buddies, and we would take a kid with a good attitude over a kid that was a really good player any day of the week,
Yeah.
just because you can teach a child or a player some of the skills, but you can't teach them to have a good attitude.
100% right. And
It's just a
we've
lot
actually had,
harder.
yeah, with the oil field, we've gone through some ups and downs over the past decade, and so we've had to downsize our teams and stuff. And that was one thing that we looked at, was like, who do we keep? We had a lot of A players, but the A players with the A attitude were the ones that got to stick around. And
Yeah.
and they, even some of the guys that maybe didn't have the skill set, but their attitude was just like, they'll do anything, learn anything. They're a team player.
Yeah.
They're willing to make the sacrifice. They showed the love for the the game, so to speak, of work and the job,
Exactly, right.
and they're the ones that you want to keep around. They're worth
And they're up for the challenge.
That's right.
Right? I mean, you're playing a game right now. You're trying to make this work so that your business or your company or your group can proceed forward. And obviously, if it doesn't work, your team's going away, right?
Yeah.
So if everyone's working towards that and they're up for the challenge and they're going to say, okay, how can we make this happen?
That's right.
Then everybody gets in on the same page and they throw their ideas around and decide who's got the best plan, so to speak,
Yeah.
and play the game.
Yeah, and the attitude's got to come from leadership. Everybody's got to be on the same page, and yeah, super important.
Yeah, exactly. How important is education in your life?
Well, I have a bit of it, so it's fairly important, but I don't think it's everything. I think I learned that somewhat the hard way. Um, I went to school for marketing and then public relations, so I was in business school, and got out of school, hunting for jobs, and I had a decent job, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be. I was looking for, to be quite frank, I was looking for more money. I wanted to be able to support a family and be a breadwinner and get to a place where I wanted to be in life, and that wasn't getting me there fast enough. So I was a bit impatient. So that's, I think the story goes, I was after a weekend of my friends paying for my bar tab where I got fed up and asked them, "Hey, how much do you make and what are you doing?" And found out that, not found out, but kind of that's when I realized they're all in trades in the oil field, making 4 times what I was making with 4 times less school.
There you go. Yeah.
So that's when I realized that, maybe school isn't everything, and just because you go to business school doesn't mean you're going to end up like Michael J. Fox on Secret to My Success.
Right.
So you're not going to be, and then it takes a long time to climb the ladder too, and in those worlds. And being a young guy, I wasn't super patient. I think, business is one of those things where if you just have straight business training without experience in a field, you could get in trouble. I mean,
right.
You end up being a textbook manager. You don't have an expertise in something, and it's somewhat, I don't think it's as desirable, but people make a living on it. People do it, but I think you got better odds if you have a background. So then I jumped into instrumentation, and that led to automation, chased opportunity, and here I am.
Nice. And so with regards to education, what do you think carries more importance, classroom or life lessons?
Well, I think being on the Life Lessons podcast, you're leading me to say life lessons.
Well, no, it's your opinion.
Yeah, no, I think school doesn't mean much without experience. So they kind of go hand in hand. I've seen it where people have no school and lots of experience, and lots of school and no experience. And to be honest, I don't think either of them are good on their own. You don't end up being well-rounded enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion, but from what I've seen, you either have the very educated people that maybe can't build those relationships and experience in the world or relate to things.
Okay.
Then you have the very experienced people that maybe are so anti-school that they don't respect the book smarts. So then you get an imbalance. And I think when you get that imbalance, then that's when you run into trouble. So I would say they're equal weighted. I'm not going to pick one or the other.
Yeah. Well, it's like you get a tradesperson, maybe dropped out of school and started swinging a hammer when he was 12, right?
Yeah.
Grew up probably a great carpenter, but you set down his QuickBooks in front of him to try and balance his books for his business, and he's got no clue, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you need, even in the trades, you have to go to school, learn some of the codes, learn some of the books, learn some of the techniques, and then you go practice them, right? You go into the real world, you actually do things. So
yeah, 100%. And I think that if I look back, like say if I try to pick out some of my my heroes outside of family and friends and brothers and sisters and stuff, and I look at like what kind of guys do I look up to? It's kind of a mix. So you got the Elon Musk's up there. Steve Jobs might be number one for me. He dropped out of college. Elon Musk, has some formal training, but how did he learn about rockets? He just read lots and lots of books about rockets. So he has like informal book education. And then there's, the guys like say Matthew McConaughey, where he's got film school and he's an actor.
right.
But he did kind of similar to what I did when I went to school for business. Was I had a job at the same time as I was taking I had a job in marketing while I was in marketing school. So he had a job in acting while he was in film school. So
Nice.
So those are the kind of combinations that I'm talking about. Is like I don't think it can be just one or the other.
Right. You get some of the training, but something physical that you can actually put that training to use and hone your skills, so to speak.
Yes.
Nice. What do you think is your biggest motivator
Ooh.
besides money?
I'm gonna grab this fan back here, turn the fan off. Maybe it's coming through, but my biggest motivator. Ooh. I'm told I'm very driven and ambitious.
Nice.
Probably because I haven't figured out my why yet. I can't put my finger on why, but I think my biggest motivator is up until this point in my life, my biggest motivator has been like kind of a mental map in my head of all the things I wanted to do by now, you know, wife, family, home, retirement savings, have all that stuff dialed in, vehicles. I have a boat. You know, I live where I want to live. I've kind of chased my career to kind of the end of its rope almost in automation. I mean, there's other places I can go, but where I'm working right now, it's the position to be in. To some respects, there's not really much more ladder to climb that in that field, so to say. You can go into strictly management next, but so I'm kind of at that point where I'm looking for a new motivation. I think I have a bigger vision of success in my mind than maybe some people do. Some people would look at what I have and have told me like, "Hey, man, just relax. You got this. You're good."
Right.
I've walked away from a couple different jobs where it's a, you know, you're at a good spot. You should just plug in here for the next 25 years and retire and you're good. You know, and that's never been good enough for me. I remember the time when I was, you know, I think I was fairly young. I was probably 18 or 19. And I remember asking my dad, "Hey, Dad, do you ever have that feeling that you're supposed to do something more that's just constantly nagging at you in the back of your head?" And he's like, you know, he kind of didn't really give me a straight answer as far as I remember. But I think it was kind of like, you know, the answer was like, not really. I've kind of, you know, did what I wanted to do and, you know, happily married, had healthy kids, house, steady job he had for like 37 years or whatever it was, you know, and it kind of like, I was like, oh, okay. You know, and I was kind of like thinking, well, maybe I just need to like settle down. But personal kind of mantra of mine is to never settle. So
Nice.
I think that's kind of what drives me. That's kind of what's in the back of my head all the time is that's what motivates me, is that kind of internal nagging, that internal like, you know, you can do better. You can maybe make the world better, be a better part of your community, you know, be a better dad, be a better husband, all those things. And that's kind of what's on my list still. And
My wife
things
and
that I
I,
don't feel like I've achieved yet.
yeah, exactly. My wife and I talk about that a lot is, you know, do you sit back and relax and do you, you know, okay, we've done everything, put your feet up, watch TV. We are always busy. We're always doing things. And if we're not doing something, we're searching the internet for something to do. Like we're looking for new projects or new experiences or something to keep your mind going. Like for us, it's about learning. It's about your motivation books. You know, that's kind of why I started this podcast. I did some hockey broadcasts on the internet, and I got out of that kind of by default. Wish I was still doing it, but now we're here, and I'm doing this podcast because it's something that I can continue doing, learn from other people, and hopefully help other people grow from experiences of my guests.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like I just think it's a great opportunity to help people.
Yeah, it's creative too. I think that's something that I'm currently missing, is I've not focused on the creative side of me very much in the last, I don't know, long time, let's say. too long since I picked up the guitar, too long since I've drawn anything or painted anything. Got other desires I'd like to do. Even the 3D printing, and too long since I've designed anything new or printed anything new. So I've kind of shut that off to achieve some goals, and now that I've achieved some life, financial, retirement type goals that are kind of they're dialed in. Maybe not, obviously not done yet, but they're well on their way, and I'm happy with it. And now I can focus on other things, and that's kind of the next step. And it could be because I'm 40, and people put that as a big milestone in their life, and they say like, okay, now what's next? And I'm always kind of been a what's next guy. So it's like I don't know if it's just 40. It's like I did it when I was 35, 30, 20, 25. Like I've done it throughout the years. Is always like the next goal or the next thing, like you said. And I think that if you asked me 20 years ago, like how many books do you plan on reading a year, 24 wouldn't have been the answer.
Yeah, right.
But in 2020, 2 or 3 a month is not a big deal nowadays. And
right.
Because you get new desire to like the same reason you do your podcast, new desire to like learn from everything around you and try to absorb all that to either figure out your why or the meaning of life or what you're supposed to do with your life or whatever's driving you, and or maybe just trying to enjoy it in a different way. And I think that's
right.
That journey of life and that journey to figure out what my why is that's going to be the ticket, I think.
Right. Nice. What do you think is your biggest fear?
Well, I think 2 things. I think there's a near end of life fear that we all have, and I think that's you don't want it to end because it's a good time. I mean, even though like a lot of people believe in going somewhere else, and I'm not sure what I believe yet. I'm still on that journey too, but there's I think we got to really focus on enjoying what we have here and treat this like a heaven on earth sort of thing. And I think that ending is a fear, but I think what would really be sad is if you go through life and you have you basically it's a collection of memories and things you've learned and getting better. And if you were to say get something like Alzheimer's and you lose all that, I think that's probably a big fear for end of life. Fear that drives me would be the fear of not figuring out my why, not figuring out what I'm supposed to do, not having that peace of mind, that key to life.
Right.
Maybe not key to life, but like that. What's life all about? Answer, because it's different for everybody probably, and that's probably that's a big fear is not figuring that out and being 80 years old one day and forgetting people's names and forgetting, just forgetting the journey and forgetting forgetting and not making the impact that you wanted to make while you're around.
Right. Okay. If you could do or be anything at all, what would it be? Without any possibility of failure?
Oh, comedian, for sure.
You wouldn't care about the tomatoes and the.
No, well, you said no failure, right? No possibility of failure. So
that's not a failure. That's just people throwing stuff at you, and a lot of comedians play off that.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
Yeah.
The self-deprecating humor. I'm pretty good at that.
There you go.
But I think I think that's something I've always wanted to try. I see great comedians. From Jerry Seinfeld to Joe Rogan to Bill Burr to some of the older ones like Carlin and Eddie Murphy, and these guys look like they're having a pretty good time. And in this day and age, you see a lot of them getting in trouble for things they say. But there's almost like this code where if you're a comedian, You get
You're
away with
allowed
saying
to.
whatever you want.
You're allowed to,
No,
yeah.
they're almost like, it's almost like this class of modern philosopher, so to speak. Because if you look at some of the comedians of the past and you watch their stuff now, you're like, wow, they totally called that. Um, and I think that's a pretty cool thing. Fame's pretty neat. I think it looks neat, anyways. I wouldn't want to be famous for the wrong reasons. I think one of the best reasons would be either for helping people or making people laugh, which I think is helping people.
Right.
So spreading love or spreading humor, I think, would be awesome. That'd be the best career.
I think I've always wanted to be a comedian as well when I was young, just because how good would it be to go somewhere and laugh all evening?
Yeah, that's
Right?
the whole point of life, and it's the
Wouldn't that
best
be
medicine.
awesome?
And yeah, it's I can't think of a better time. I mean, we spend a lot of time and money as humans trying to figure out how to have a good time, and I think the pinnacle of having a good time is uncontrollable laughter. So why not do that for a living?
Right? Yeah, one of my buddies I went to school with, we used to hang out all the time, and we went and seen McLean and McLean together. And from that point on, it was like the two of us were connected, and we just everything we said, everybody laughed, and we would feed off each other,
Oh,
just
it's
like
fun.
crazy. It
Yeah.
was awesome. It was way awesome.
I've had some serious, like pretty serious careers, and like if I go back down the list, it's like, okay, I've worked in the oil field, I've worked in public relations, I've worked in advertising, I've worked in automation. I mean, all that's left on the stereotypical negative side of the career fence, I think, is a
On the
lawyer
stage.
and lawyer and tax man, and things like that.
Yeah.
Or like what else can I be, like on the I don't know, the corporate sin side of the fence, like that's a pretty bad list. I've had fun
That's
doing it.
awesome.
I've made fun of it, but I think that if I was to do something
Actually,
different,
doing all those different things would make for a great comedy show,
I have some notes.
right? I worked at Safeway for 12 years, and I have a lot of experiences from Safeway that you could do a whole comedy night on that.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Well,
and
like I said, I worked at the grocery store younger too,
yeah,
and
you
yeah,
know exactly what I'm talking about.
I've got a script in my head for the grocery store comedy,
Yeah,
but
those
yeah,
old grannies that used to come in there, we called them zombies because they'd walk into the store, and as soon as their hands grabbed the cart, they were like, bzzz, and they
yeah,
didn't have a clue about anything.
that's awesome.
But yeah,
Yeah, there's lots of good stories out of that. I mean, I think that's probably one of the reasons why I haven't tried it. Two reasons. One, I'm going to need a letter from the corporation I work for to indemnify me from anything I say, so I keep my job until I get
right,
famous and rich. And then two, it's like I kind of felt like as you go through stages of life, different things are funny, right? And
right, right.
sometimes your life isn't that exciting, and you need longer time to collect material.
Yeah, but you know what? A lot of guys talk about like say their kids and the regular, everyday, minute things that those kids do. And what was I reading one day? The guy said, comedy isn't saying funny things, it's saying things funny.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you talk about the little kid that walks along and takes the crayon and writes on the wall. And if you say it properly, people laugh at it.
Yes,
Right?
100%.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
So
all about the delivery.
I think part of it too is that it takes a great deal of risk to go down career paths like that. I think. I
Correct.
mean,
Correct.
and if you have certain goals, I kind of had a. I like to say I'm doing really good at average.
Right.
Kicking the heck out of average.
And I think
But
most of us are, right?
yeah, and I think that that's great, but at some point that's not going to be enough. And I don't know if comedy is the answer for me, but
Yeah. It'd
it's
definitely be an experience.
it's definitely up there. That's an interesting question you ask, and yeah, it gets you thinking for sure.
That would be an awesome experience for one. What do you do in your spare time to take your mind off things?
Well, I enjoy, like I said, I like surfing. I don't live near the ocean, so I do a lot of wake boat surfing, um, surfing behind the boat with friends and family, and that's the summer real unwind. That's where I really get to my relaxed state when when I just had a good surf session and all the people I love are on the boat and they're circling around to come pick me up, and you know, it's just me and the board and the lake, and I'm physically exhausted. It's beautiful out. The sun's shining. The lake's flat, glass-like. I can
Nice.
see the boat I worked hard for coming at me with people I love on it, and I put my hands behind my head and put my feet up on the board and just lie
Yeah.
there and think,
And wait
man,
for the boat.
this life is awesome, and that's probably one of the funnest parts and most
Nice.
relaxing times that I can think of. But I'm a seasonal guy, so I have similar for the winter, snowboarding and skiing.
Snowboarder. Nice.
Maybe you have a great run and you're just wiped, and your friends are chasing you down, and maybe you're the first one down, and you just feel like you would have won the X Games or took gold in the Olympics after that run in your head, and the right songs were playing in your ear, and you just you either sit on the chairlift and turn to your friend and say that was awesome, or maybe you just pushed too hard and you crashed into the powder, and you just lie there and you do the little squeegee on your goggles and look up and it's still snowing on you, and you stick your tongue out and grab a snowflake and you're like, man, was that ever great.
That's
That's what you live for, that kind of stuff.
when I used to ski. That was one of the things I liked doing, skiing in some nice big powder. And like you said, have a great run. You get to the bottom, and sometimes I don't even want to go back up. I just plop down in the snow and
Yeah,
stare up at the sky, watch the clouds go by or whatever. It's
go,
just an
go to the
experience.
lodge and have a beer and talk about it
Yeah,
for
that
the
was
rest
the
of
best.
the yeah.
Yeah,
um yeah, and then I think outside of sport, you know there's definitely some relaxing times as well. Like, I think what relaxes me a lot is just I work away, week on week off shift, and when I get home, um, and the chaos of the day is over and the kids' homework is done and they're fed, and then the family just chills out and just veggies together and watches a movie. Picks a
nice.
movie and sits there, and everybody's quietly watching the movie. And I've had a long week at work, and I just look around, and wife's smiling, kids are smiling. Maybe I got a kid or two on my lap, and it's just you just take a deep breath and you go, "Wow, life's really good." So
Yeah,
that's a
that's
really relaxing moment as well, and that's a nice one because you don't have to go anywhere, man. You're just with your people
right.
you love, and that's it. That's all you need sometimes.
Hang out with family. Yeah. How important is family in your life?
What else is there?
Right.
I mean, it's super important. I think that's probably that'd be number one. And the reason why I'd put it at number one is because I got in my head I like to check off all those boxes of kicking the heck out of average, so that the family gets to be able to do the things that kids want to do. Like, they get to ski and snowboard, they get to be behind a nice wake boat, they get to live in a nice part of the world, and all
Nice.
those things are because made sacrifices along the way to get to that point, and so
Right.
that would make them number one. Like, I could have ran off and tried my luck as a comedian a long time ago, but that puts number one at risk, right? So to do
Well,
that
exactly.
would so you gotta, in my head, I like to have things dialed in before I move on to the next stage, and
Right.
hopefully I don't wait too long.
Well, there's some of those guys that go on X Factor or whatever that are doing the comedy. They're like 65, 75 years old,
Yes, yeah,
and
that's
some of
true.
them are really good. So,
Yeah, oh, for sure. And I
yeah,
think that's probably a thing too, and probably maybe a bit of a regret of mine is just kind of waiting for that next stage in life all the time. Like, and then afterwards going, why did I wait? I could have done that a long time ago.
right.
Like you wait till you're 18 or you wait till you're done school or you wait till the next job and you're like, what was I waiting for?
Why didn't I do this 10 years ago?
And you see like the X Factor and you see the 12-year-old doing what you wanted to do and you're 25 and you're like, oh, well, maybe I'm too late now, and so I think time messes with my head a lot. And I think maybe not being so caught up on time would be maybe my only regret.
Right. Well, I think sometimes we get caught up, like you said, waiting till that next stage or waiting till you're ready kind of thing. Um, you talk to a lot of people that have kids later in life, like
Mm-hmm.
40, you've got kids, your daughter's 9, you said.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you started when you were 30. A lot of people don't start till they're 40 or 45
Yeah.
because they want to make sure they've got the house and the car and, a good career and, set up before they have kids.
Yeah.
Um, when is the right time? I don't know what that is. We started quite young. My wife and I started, we were early 20s or just 20. But I mean, we were at hockey with our kids that were 10 and 12, playing with other kids that were 10 and 12, and the parents were like 60. And I'm like, my kids are old enough that they're gone and I can still do things,
Yeah.
right? If you start when you're 55 or 50 having kids, by the time they're gone, you're going to be too old to do anything.
Yeah, maybe, but maybe they
So,
did things before they had kids.
well, that's the other thing. Maybe they did all their traveling and they got to do all their, fancy whatever getaways or whatever, skydiving and, scuba diving and whatever,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, like when is the right time? I don't know, right?
Yeah.
When is it right for you, right? I guess that's
That,
the biggest question.
I think that is the biggest question, and I think everybody's a little bit different, and that's
Right.
probably I think that's probably why that's the regret is I think I artificially held myself back. I didn't listen to myself as much as I would nowadays, or
Right.
I didn't think it through as much as I probably could have. I think as you get older, you spend a lot more time thinking life through, and that's probably maybe
Contemplating.
part of that's hormones and part of that's patience. I don't know.
Contemplating. Yeah.
Yes, contemplating.
Well, I think as we get older too, we've gained some life lessons and gained some knowledge. So then you look back at those things and they're maybe not so scary as you thought they were. Or
Yeah,
you understand a little more how to deal with it,
agreed.
right? If you get into a situation, say your comedy, you understand how when you get up on stage you can deal with people that are heckling you instead of getting up there and then freak it out because people are heckling you and you get off stage and don't ever want to do it again. Right?
Yeah.
So, you learn along the way, definitely. You were saying you kick back in your snow on your wakeboard when you're waiting to be picked up and that music's playing in your ear. You're listening to that tune in your head. So picture yourself stuck on a desert island. You got a device, but it can only play one song over and over. What song would that be for you?
Depending on the type of island.
Well, tell me what type of island it is.
Well, I'm hoping it's one of those nice warm ones in the Caribbean, but
One palm tree.
yes, by palm trees. Yeah, something. It's maybe an island, similar island to what Johnny Depp gets stuck on in Pirates of the Caribbean.
There you
But
go.
lots of rum, and and good weather, good spirits. I think there's, I think different stages of my life, I would have picked different songs. Um, Probably in my teenage years, it would have been a grunge song. Maybe in my 20s, maybe it would have been some sort of heavy metal song. Maybe like a techno song is kind of the mainstream called. Um, you know, but I think listening habits in my 30s were super all over the place. But I think I would pick a Canadian artist by the name of Deadmau5, and his song. He's a house techno artist, electronic EDM music. And there's just one song that particularly jumps out of me. It's called Ghosts and Stuff. It's almost like it's been reappearing in my life through all
Okay.
those years. You know, he got popular in between 2000 and 2006. So I started listening to him sometime around that range in my 20s, and then certain songs throughout my 30s, and then now in as I turn 40, it's on my playlist, both in my years snowboarding and on the wake tower while I'm surfing. So
Nice.
yeah, I think that would be the one. So it's definitely not a traditional one, but why not pick a Canadian artist? And for some reason that song just kind of gets me amped up and in a happy way.
Nice. Right on. That's awesome. So picture yourself in a room, totally closed off except for one door. Describe the door to me.
Say that again.
Picture yourself in this room and there's one door. Describe what that door looks like to me.
Now, I've watched a podcast or two of yours. I've not heard this question, I don't think.
This is not one that I've played before.
And not that I'm cheating or anything, but I think that I know that you're not going to give me any more clues than that.
No, because it's your perception.
My interpretation of the question, yeah.
Exactly. What would your door look like?
Yeah. I think it'd be a wooden door, probably a dark gray in color, maybe a touch of green moss growing on maybe a slightly not perfect mounted hinge.
Okay.
Where the top of the door is kind of hanging out with a little bit of green moss growing on. And I'm not really sure why there'd be moss growing on the inside of a room that's completely enclosed, but the door would open probably towards me.
Okay.
Pull on a handle that's it wouldn't be a knob. I'm not a big knob door fan, but I think it would be a lever type door handle, and it'd be probably like a hand pounded metal door handle with exposed hinges. There'd be a little peephole, but it'd be for the other side.
Oh, okay. So people can look in and see what's going on.
Yeah. And I think that it would be heavy to pull at first and then swing open with some weight to it freely. And I think that's what the door would look like, and that's kind of how it would work. I don't think I'd know what would be on the other side, though. You can't really look through that peephole the other way, but somebody's watching, and probably keep me behaving in that room.
So for somebody that would look through to see Ryan Stasiuk on the other side, what would they see?
Well, how long am I in this room?
Well, I don't know. That's your perception.
Well, since it's a hypothetical, I would probably. I think at first they would see me trying to figure out how to get out. I think the door would probably be locked. I don't think I'd be able to get out at first. And then I'd probably hear a noise and be able to open the door. But they would probably see me trying to figure out why I'm in this room in the first place, and just kind of exploring, trying to figure out what situation I've gotten myself into. And probably focus quite heavily on the door, because if the room's completely enclosed, I'm imagining it. For some reason, I'm picturing a white room with no corners. So, kind of like a like a cell almost, with no windows, no
Okay.
corners, just rounded edges on all the where all the corners would be, and an imperfect wall, kind of like you'd see in like a Mexican house where the plaster's kind of that
Okay.
rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, very bright, but you can't tell where the light's coming from.
Nice.
That's the room I picture, anyways.
Nice.
So
Nice.
kind of
Okay.
a awkward room.
That's awesome. Um, my second part of that question would have been what you said. You don't know what would be on the other side. Because I was going to ask you, so open up that door and tell me what is on the other side.
All right, so if the door gets unlocked and I can open it, I'm hoping that the door leads to the outside, something in nature, maybe by a lake or a stream with trees and sun, warm weather, and maybe happy people in the distance. And yeah, I don't see people on the other side. I'd probably wonder who unlocked it, but just kind of nature and freedom. Yeah,
Right.
kind of
Nice.
that loving feeling you get when you're outside on a nice day, one of your favorite places. For some reason, I'm picturing like something on Vancouver Island in the summer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on. Right on.
Like it
You
was
live
some very modernized on the inside Hobbit house door.
right.
Just walk out
Okay.
of the side of a mountain.
Yeah. That would be actually amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Your whole side of your mountain is just one door there, but inside is your space. But you walk out and you're in nature. Like what else would there be, right?
Yeah.
That would just be amazing.
Yeah.
Have
I've had,
something like that.
yeah, or maybe on the other side of the door, it's like our camp room hallways where it's just a lot of doors. And at the
Whole
very end,
hallway.
there's an exit sign.
Yeah. Great, great big honking hallway with a whole bunch of doors.
Maybe if you asked me that question while I wasn't at work, I'd answer differently.
Right. What one thing do you think you've accomplished in your life that you're most proud of?
Most proud of, like, proud of for me or just proud?
It's your question, your perception.
I think
Proud
I'm most proud
for your
of,
family, proud for your mom and
yeah,
dad, proud for you.
I think I'm most proud of the relationships I've kept and built. Um, I think it's tough. Times goes on and people move apart, and I got a friend that talked on the phone with every couple of days since I was like 11 or 12, and for a period of time, I don't think I've seen him for like 6 years, but we still talked on the phone.
Nice.
Living in different cities and stuff, and I think that's kind of rare for guys, anyways. Maybe I'm wrong, but then good relationship with my parents and brothers, and yeah, I think that there's definitely I value friendships a lot as well. Like I treat my friends like family, and
Nice.
my kids call one of my friends Uncle Jared.
Nice.
so so
We
that's
have,
pretty cool. My other good friend that I talk to all the time, Jeff. He's a stand-up dude. Those are guys that kind of people that you look around and you're like, yeah, this is the same kind of people that you're gonna see in your life through your whole life, and I think that's important. That's what probably the most.
I look at that as, friends that are that close are family.
Mhm.
Family doesn't necessarily have to be blood.
No, I think when they say like those sayings like you can't choose your family, I'm like, yeah, you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, you can.
Sometimes your friends are more important to you than family.
Well, and
Right?
yeah, and for different reasons too, right? Like
Exactly.
there's things my family knows about me that my friends don't, and vice versa. And
And
there's
hopefully
reasons
your
I know
parents
one
never
versus.
ever find out.
Yeah, well, you gotta. That's the fun part about life is you tell your parents all the stuff that you got away with later on, and it's a good story.
Right.
It gets
My
live at
mom
Christmas.
We were together last Christmas, I think. I'm 57, right? My parents were, we were all together, my brothers and my sister and our families and stuff, and we were all around the table playing cards, and we started talking about some of the things that we did when we were young. And my mom kept piping up saying, I didn't know you guys did that. When did you do that? I never knew that. Like, she was getting mad at us for stuff we did back then. It was quite funny.
Yeah, it's good times. It's also fun when your parents find out things that they never knew, and then they end up respecting a skill that you have because of it. Maybe you fixed something and they never knew you broke it, or
Right?
you know,
Exactly.
being a family of three boys, that happened quite a bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, between my dad and me breaking things, my handyman skills have been pretty good over the years.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Who do you think, or what is the greatest piece of advice given to you so far, and who gave it to you?
Tough one. I think that I've read too many books on that sort of stuff.
Well, that's
But
advice.
I think that my mom would say stuff like, "It'll all work out," and or "It's all going to be okay," and she's right. I think that's up there as one of the greatest pieces of advice. My dad was
Nice.
really big on telling the truth, and you know, look out for your brothers, which leads to look out for your friends, which leads to look out for your coworkers and your employees and all that stuff, and look out for others. Treat people like you would. I think lately, probably one of the most interesting pieces of advice that I've come across comes from probably a super unlikely source, listening to a podcast. Um, not, and I kind of recommend people listen to the podcast because it's interesting and you see a totally different side of this person. But listening to Joe Rogan podcast recently, Kanye West, which, the guy seems like an absolute show.
Right.
Like, right?
Yeah.
But super impressed with when he gets a chance to lay out his thought pattern and how he ties everything together. And the one thing that jumped out at me, he said that's been kind of working its way in my mind over the last however long that podcast came out, a month ago or something, is time is love.
Nice.
And you can't have one without the other, and they support each other. And he didn't really get into it much, but when I started thinking about it, it's like, yeah, if you really love people, you spend time with them, and vice versa. That you spend a lot of time with people and maybe you end up falling in love. So I think to remember that, like, time's not like an enemy of ours, and treat it more like something that's tied to love is, man, that's a good piece of advice that I haven't quite figured out yet. So that's one for your viewers too, is like, think
Yeah.
about that. Like, just to wrap your head around stuff like that. I think that's exciting. That's why I read these books, and interested in old books like Moby Dick and new podcasts like Joe Rogan and everything in between. It's an adventure, and
Nice.
that's probably the one that jumps out at me the most lately.
Nice. That's awesome. Is there anything in your life that you think you would like to go back and change?
Hmm. I'm sure there's lots of little things. um, I don't know, like, it's like that butterfly effect. You don't want to change too much. Um, I don't think I made mistakes and learned from them, but I don't know if I'd change any of that. Um, I think if I was to go back and change one thing, I would tell myself that not to be so hung up on time, and maybe focus more on the love.
Nice.
Focus more on not that I didn't love and I didn't spend time on the things I loved, but like I mentioned earlier, like how do I put this? Just like getting hung up by something like a predetermined timeline or expectation of what life should be,
Right.
you know? And like you're supposed to, I think it used to bug me a lot when I was younger. I'd have family members or friends or teachers. It was always like worrying about the next stage, and it was like, oh, you're in junior high school. Well, what are your grades, and when are you going to go to high school? And then the next was, when are you going to go to college, and when are you going to meet a girl, and when are you going to get married, and when are you going to have kids? And after a while, I actually started. Funny story. I actually started lying. Family. I used to tell my poor grandmothers. I used to tell them that I wasn't getting married ever, and I don't plan on having a girlfriend. And then, this is kind of before really. I didn't fall into the maybe he's gay trap or anything, but it was a frustration thing. It was like, well, I was kind of like, well, what if that's not the path I want to take, and that wasn't necessarily, I don't think it didn't feel like it was an okay answer for them, but it got them off my back.
Right. Right.
So I think that's probably one thing is I think I would just go. I think I would probably be a little bit nicer about that, and give the people that I cared about a little bit something more to think about than just denying what they thought was the right path, and then also tell myself not to worry about that so much. Kind of just roll with it and maybe have fun with it instead of being denial like that or
Yeah.
just, like, deny the question. So that'd probably be the one thing.
Nice. What do you think one thing in your past is that's given you your greatest life lesson?
Hmm. Just one.
If you could pick one.
Yeah. Like I would say like an experience in my past, or what are we talking here?
It's up to you. Give me an experience. Give me an experience that you had
I
that
think the
really
one that
taught you a life lesson.
I think the one that I keep going back to, because I think my generation was always told that you're not going to have the same career throughout your whole life. So I kind of go back to the time where I switched careers in 1 week. It's kind of an interesting story. I was in public relations for the Food Bank Network Association in Alberta, and I'd done 4 years of school, and I was frustrated with pay and opportunity, and I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel in that career, and ended up hanging out with some friends one weekend and had a bit too much to drink. And the next morning in the bars, when I asked the boys, "Hey, what should I be?" And kind of narrowed it down to instrumentation or electrician with my friends and my dad. You're smart, it's a good trade, and you stay clean, you make a lot of money, and nobody knows what they do. So I picked instrumentation almost as a challenge. Lined up a job within a week, sold a condo, quit a couple part-time jobs, quit my full-time job, and moved back in with my parents, all within about a week. That all got set in motion. And so I think the biggest life lesson I learned out of that is, look what I've done now. I feel like I'm fairly successful, doing good as an average guy, and have a good family, and everybody's happy and healthy, and a little bit of money in my pocket, and good, opportunity in the future to maybe chase those dreams that I've been kind of holding off on. And whether that's a bigger leadership role in what I'm already doing, or comedy, or or traveling the world midlife. I don't know, but I think the biggest life lesson is that you should give it a try and not be afraid to try new things, not be afraid to switch your career if you're not happy. Just don't let that fear hold you back. Maybe use a different type of fear to push, a bigger fear to push you. Kind of like you don't want to end up being old and gray and not feel like you did what you wanted to do.
Right. Take the chance and become successful.
That's thanks for summarizing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We're done here.
I like to say, just roll the dice. Like, if
Right.
it's not what you want, roll the dice, try something different. And I've tried to instill that in my siblings and friends and family, and sometimes it sticks and sometimes people are frustrated. And
Well,
I like
and
to
I
try to
think
help them get out of that.
sometimes people aren't ready for that, but I think sometimes people are comfortable where they're at, and they're I don't necessarily want to say complacent, but they're comfortable enough that they feel good where they're at and they don't want to take a chance.
Yeah, that's something that
Right.
I've taken a long time to understand, that because that's not me. I barely take time to celebrate successes, let alone be comfortable where I'm at. So when I have a younger brother who's comfortable where he's at, and or some friends that are comfortable where they're at, like close friends, where I'm like, oh man, you should try this, you should do this, you should start a company, we should do this, and they're just like, hey, I'm good. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Whereas I'm kind of like the never settle guy. I'm not ready to just sit there and plug in for 25 years, and other people are, and it doesn't compute for me. So it's something that I need to
Well,
work.
you're the guy that gets done something and you're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah, I didn't even
Right?
crack a beer and celebrate. I just moved on.
Yeah, okay, I got this one done. What's next? Where do we go from here?
Yeah,
Right? That's awesome though. That's something that people can, look at and say, well, yeah, you can always continue. You can
yeah,
start a new journey every time,
that's
or
right.
continue on the same journey, start a new chapter, right?
Yeah, I think that's the life lesson. Is the big one is just roll the dice. Don't be afraid of change. Give it a whirl. You can do it.
Right, right. What do you think would be most meaningful to you in 5 years?
In 5 years. Hmm. I think that's the problem right now. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do for the
Back
next five
back to
years.
your why.
Yeah. Well, I guess a little bit back to the why. Most meaningful for me would be to, I think, you got a couple choices, either change or accept. And I think, and I think that's, the same as kind of we just talked about, is like, you get some people that are comfortable where they're at, and some people who aren't. Um, so I think in 5 years from now, it'd be nice if I was able to be happy one way or the other,
Nice. Right
and
on.
just be like set on either whether it's the same path or set on a new path. Just be happy with the direction it's going and enjoy the ride, because that's the fun part.
Right.
Yeah,
I
that's
I saw
that's
I saw a quote years ago. One of my boys put it actually in his high school grade 12 graduation. That's his quote. It says, I don't want to cross the finish line at the end with a pristine body, you know, all good and everything. He says, I want to come skidding in broadside, all beat up and tattered and worn, oil leaking out everywhere and saying, wow, what a ride.
yeah,
You know, your,
yeah. Like, do
your
you ever have
journey
those
in life.
reoccurring dreams?
What's that?
You ever have reoccurring dreams?
Oh, all the time. All
Okay,
the
so
time,
I
man.
got this one where it's from back in the day. I haven't had it in a long time, but I picture the end of life for me being like, just like you're just ripping down a mountain road on a sport bike, being shot at by a helicopter with a machine gun, and you fly off the edge of the cliff in a ball of flames at the very end, and there's nothing left. There's nothing left in the tank. The gas tank's empty. There's nothing left on the odometer. The engine was about to blow up anyways, and you're all tattered and shot full of holes, and you got a smile on your face at the end.
Right.
That's it. Just you're totally spent. You've given
Yeah.
it everything you've got. I've had knee surgeries a couple times, and I've had doctors be like, "Oh, you're gonna have trouble when you're 80," and I'm like, "Good." Let's get me to 80. We'll worry about 80 when we get there. But I'm not going to hand in a pristine body by any means. I'm going to have scars to show the good times I had.
For sure. That's what I was telling my wife today. My knees hurting. The weather change here again. Hockey knees. Yeah. But I've been, yesterday it was great all day. Today it's been aching. So. Yeah. And I got lots of days of aching to go yet. If you had a magic wand and you could do one thing for yourself, what would it be?
One thing just for me.
Well,
one thing for myself.
How would you proceed for you?
A magic wand. Even though it might take the fun out of it a little bit, because risk is part of the fun. I mean, that's why kids skateboard.
Right.
But I think it's Jordan Peterson that goes off about saying, leave skateboarding kids alone for those exact reasons, because they're figuring out risk and enjoyment, and
right.
They're doing something. Maybe it's not constructive in your eyes, but they're at least trying. And he goes on and on. I'll let Jordan Peterson explain.
They're pushing the envelope.
I think that if somebody waved a magic wand for me and made it so that I had no worries about going down some of the crazy paths or doing some of the crazy things that, like, I have a list in my head a mile long about all the things I want to do in life. And, if 40 is halfway the average man's lifespan, well, I better get after it, because there's a lot left to do. But, like I said, that number one value of mine, the family and keeping things in line, if that's the case, then it would be really nice to just wave a magic wand and make it so that, like, at least my family and life and it wouldn't mess with their life too much, and just try all the crazy stuff I wanted to do. Like maybe, do the cocktail thing and go bartend in the Cayman Islands just for fun, because somebody waved a magic wand and made it so that you didn't need the money.
Right. Exactly.
And everybody had their health still, and everybody was still happy. That'd be cool. That'd be cool.
But it was taken care of.
Yeah, everything was taken care of, and I could just focus on chasing wild and crazy dreams. I think that would be pretty cool.
Nice. That would be awesome. If you could write a letter to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself, and what age would it be?
I think I'd go back to high school, and I had a good time. I mean, I didn't get bad grades, did what I wanted to do. But I think I would tell myself, like, it'd be right at the end of high school, and I'd be like, just take some time off. Just take a year. Just go do something, and I took, like, not even really time off because I worked a lot, but I think I would have said, hey, don't worry about the money. Just go travel the world. Just get out of here for a little bit. Come back later. Because there's a couple of reasons for that. Well, look at the state we're in now. Good luck traveling.
Right, yeah.
When that's going to end. Hopefully it does, and hopefully it doesn't ruin international travel forever and all that. But, I guess you can still travel. You just can't come back, and some countries won't let you in or out. But I think that would be it. I'd say just go see what the world's about, because I think that's the one thing that I still want to do that's, like, be kind of disruptive right now. So, yeah, I think that would be it. It'd just be like, instead of working all summer and working all fall, at least take 6 months to a year and just go be somewhere. And my wife did that. She doesn't regret it, and it sounds awesome. My parents would have been totally against it, which would have been cooler. Maybe not. My mom probably would be like, yeah, do it. But I think I had high expectations for the jobs and the career ideas, and I put a lot of pressure on myself, trying to decide, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up, and instead of just focusing on growing up.
So what do you want to be when you grow up?
That's back to the why.
Right? A comedian.
Yeah, well, maybe comedian, maybe Steve Jobs, maybe I don't know,
Go.
maybe a street bum. I have no idea. I think that list is really long. You know, that things I want to try and things I want to do is pretty long. I mean, I chase things here and there, and I think I just want to be happy when I grow up, when I grow old, and look back and be like, wow, that was a great adventure.
Right?
You know,
Yeah.
Peter Pan style. Just look back and that was a great adventure, Peter. You know.
Yeah. I tell my wife the story that we've written about our life so far and the story we're continuing to write. I don't want it to be just a regular novel. I want it to be um like an adventure novel, an adventure book, right? Of experiences and things that you just wouldn't normally do, right?
Yeah.
You know,
So
take
not grow.
what's that?
So same as me. Not grow up.
Right, pretty much, right? Do all
Yeah.
those things you always wanted to do. That's what I really want, right? So yeah, all the cool experiences that you thought would be so fun when you were young.
Yeah. 100%.
If you could have lunch and a chat with anyone dead or alive, who would it be and what would you talk about?
I don't know. I was kind of hoping you weren't going to ask that question. um, Dead or alive? You know, I'd like to say a guy like Steve Jobs, but I heard he was a bit of a jerk, so that probably wouldn't be beneficial. I I think that a great conversationalist like Joe Rogan would be pretty cool. Um, I think that somebody that's well, Steve Jobs is dead, but somebody that's dead um, it would be interesting to be really interesting to talk to my grandparents, like my grandfather. My grandfather's on both sides because he died when I was pretty young, and as I get older, I got lots of questions. That'd be pretty
Nice.
cool. That'd be the yeah. I'd like to have lunch with both of them.
That would be awesome.
Would be pretty awesome. That'd be pretty up there. And then like, there's always like the really influential people in the world that you just die to hear what they were like. You know, um,
Right.
like some of these authors that I've read from the past would be pretty interesting. Like what the hell was going through George Orwell's mind back then? You know, like
Right.
it's starting to feel like
Right.
1984 right now. So the dystopian future novelists would be interesting, maybe. Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting people, but I think if I had to pick one, just because it relates directly to myself, my family, I'd probably pick. I'd pick two. I'd pick both my grandfathers.
That would be awesome. Did they know each other?
Well, I think so, right? Because my parents got married, right? So
Other like I mean,
oh,
but
yeah,
other than just you're the other parent. Would did
well,
they did they know each
I don't
other
know. They
well?
must have known each other. Two small towns, not that far apart in Saskatchewan. So, I mean, I think they were rival small towns. I think to a degree. So, I think they all kind of knew each other. I don't know how long they
But
were
they
there for.
probably did know each
One of
other.
them, one of them owned a grocery store and was a farmer, and the other one owned a pharmacy and was a farmer. So they're both kind of workaholics. Like, kind of wonder where I get it from, but kind of not. Uh,
Right.
Yeah.
It would be an interesting conversation, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I
Chat
think it'd
with
be
them.
cool. I think it'd be also cool because like I don't know what I'd ask him, you know. So it would just be interesting.
But even just sitting and talking, that would, the questions would come as soon as you start talking with them and just finding out about them.
Yeah, the reactions would be interesting too because they're close to you, right? It's not like you're just
Right.
talking to somebody random. So, I knew him until I I'm bad with dates and times, but I think I was like 8 when one of them passed away, and maybe younger for the other one, something like that. My parents are probably gonna watch this and be like, "Wait, we tell you all the time." I was young,
Yeah.
and so I wonder if I like would recognize them, recognize
Okay.
their voices and the feeling that goes along with it. That'd
Right.
be interesting.
Exactly.
There's lots of cool people you could pick, um, but where you only had a piece of somebody and they're close to you and family and part of your life when you're really young, but haven't seen you since, that'd be neat.
Yeah. That would definitely be interesting. That would be awesome.
Mhm.
If you could send one message out to the world, what would it be?
One message to the whole world. I think I would just say, like, uh, I think I would say, careful with freedom because it's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Without freedom of speech, freedom to do what you want, freedom to chase your dreams, I don't think there's much else that's more important. So just be a lot more careful with it.
Nice.
I think that would be the one thing because it's the top of my list. I mean, I love, family is the thing I care most about, but without freedom, there's a lot of stuff that we can't do. Freedom of
Right.
speech, we can't have this conversation. You know, freedom of choice, freedom of just free will. Being a fairly free country is pretty important. Not having somebody control your life. We're under a lot of control right now.
Oh,
For,
definitely.
for good reason, with COVID and stuff like that. But I think there's some freedoms that we're at risk of losing, and maybe I've read too many dystopian future novels, but I think
But
that's
there's
the most important thing, and it enables everything else. It enables humor, which I highly value. It enables love, which is right up there with humor. It enables, free time can't exist without freedom. Um, that's pretty important, and then even like um, a lot of our fears are made up of our own, you know, like the fears we have in this part of the world, a lot different than fears that people have in other parts of the world because they're not free, you
oh
know.
for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
that's pretty sad. So I
Yeah.
think the world needs to focus on freedom more than control, and I think we'd be a better place.
Nice. Okay, so one last question. Ryan Stasiuk has gone through his life, however, whatever age that is, 80, 120, whatever.
I've left the building.
You've left the building, you've learned everything you've ever wanted to learn. You've done everything you've ever wanted to do. You've gained all the knowledge and experience that you could have. And when you pass on, you take it all with you. Nobody knows who Ryan Stasiuk is, but you can leave behind 3 lessons for life. What would those 3 things be?
Don't forget to feel. Um, that's the love and humor bit. Um, Careful with freedom. We just kind of talked about that. And then refocus your fears. I think, um, you know, wrap your head around fear so that it, pushes you from behind instead of stands in front of you.
Let your fears push you on to more success.
Yeah, I think that fear is more powerful when it's pushing you rather than standing in front of you. So
Nice.
yeah.
Right on. Awesome. Those are awesome. I enjoyed our visit, Ryan. Yeah, I always do every time we chat. It's
Yeah, it's
it's
a
a pleasure
little
to
deeper
talk
this
with you.
time. Yeah,
Well,
is
it
it?
is a little more time to actually chat this time too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
So
Well, thanks
yeah,
very much.
we'll have to do this again sometime. Maybe, a couple years from now, your answers will change, things will change in your life. Yeah, we'll get together
Yeah,
again.
I think it definitely will. I mean, like I said, I was little like maybe you should wait 40 years. I'll have a lot more lessons for you that mean more. But halfway lessons are okay for the people that are only a quarter of the way. So
Right? Exactly. Everybody's got something to learn and everybody's got something to give.
yeah,
So
so
yeah,
maybe I thought maybe too like I didn't want to limit the conversation. I didn't want to worry about opening up too much.
oh, I think we've
Whatever.
done well.
This is me. So yeah,
I think we've done
thanks.
well. This is
Appreciate
awesome.
it.
Thank you. Thanks again to Ryan Stasiuk. I'm Troy Hudkins for Lessons for Life podcast. Join us again in the future for another episode. Thank you.
Cheers.
Gotta find out where to stop this now.